Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some breaking news coming out here for you. And I want to bring you an update and a story coming out from Ukraine and regarding this war with Russia. So we have a story that Russia has taken large parts of a town called Ocheretyne. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Ocheretyne, as troops advance forward. So what happened here was there was some sort of rotational error where Ukraine's elite 47th Mechanized Brigade was supposed to be relieved by the 115th Mechanized Brigade in this city of Ocheretyne. So what happened was the 47th Mechanized Brigade pulled out of Ocheretyne, and during that time, somehow the Russians knew they were withdrawing, and that's when the Russians started advancing on this city, and they took large portions of it. I think they have at least like a third of it, maybe more. We have a few X posts we're going to go over too, talking about this as well. Yeah, apparently there was a rotational error where the 47th Mechanized Brigade they left too early, and apparently they've been fighting for upwards of like 11 months, almost a year now, and they were supposed to be relieved by the 115th Mechanized Brigade. So they left too early, and that's how this city became exposed. And the Russians caught on to that and moved forward and took a bunch of land there, at least from what we're being told. So the reason why I'm talking about this story is to show you that Ukraine is still struggling in this fight. They've been losing lots of ground here recently, and a lot of times not even really talked about much. So I wanted to show you an article. Like I said, we'll go over some X posts. And first, let me show you on a map where this is taking place at, okay, where all this is happening. So this is in Ukraine on the eastern side near the Donetsk region down here. Okay, so just a couple months ago, was it, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, when the Russians took Avdiivka right here, right? This was a huge story. This was a major town that Ukraine did not want to lose, that allowed them to get to Donetsk, okay, which was annexed by Russia. So they took Avdiivka a few months ago, and look at how far they've gotten. This is Ocheretyne over here, right? They've taken a good amount of land, in this region here, moving forward more western, pushing into Ukraine. So consistently, the Russians, they may not be gaining ground quickly, but they are consistently gaining more ground. So they've taken over portions of this town. We know that this town, I don't know how to pronounce it, Novo Bakhmutivka was taken over as well by the Russians. So they seized this town after just a few months ago. They took Avdiivka, so they've controlled a large portion of here, and now they're taking parts of this town. So this is where this blunder happened, where the Ukrainian military was supposed to be rotating their troops out, and during this time of rotating, there was some sort of miscommunication, or I don't know what happened here, but the original brigade that was there, the 47th, they pulled out and started heading out of the town, while the 115th hadn't even showed up yet. So yeah, that's what we're being told here on this article. We're going to be going over this, and I want to talk about this again because to show that Ukraine is struggling to fight this war, and even though they're getting all this aid right now from the United States, it's going to take time for them to get all this weaponry. And in the meantime, they're still continuing to lose ground here, and the Russians are advancing forward. So I've been talking a lot about potential Western troops involving themselves in this war. French President Emmanuel Macron has come out and said that if they ever had to step in and fight for Ukraine, that they would send their troops over there and fight. And this just goes to show, this adds up and to those stories that I report where Western countries are saying they may have to step in and fight for Ukraine. Okay, even the United States has said that too. That if the Ukraine doesn't fight this war, it'll be U.S. troops, U.S. boys on the ground fighting in Ukraine. So it's definitely getting pretty intense over here and scary for Ukraine, and they're definitely struggling. Okay, they are not holding up as well as they once were just a year or so ago. So let's talk about this. On Business Insider, Russian troops advanced and captured large parts of village after apparent Ukrainian blunder left Frontline unmanned. So it says here, a blunder by Ukrainian troops appears to have allowed Russian forces to advance and capture large parts of a village unopposed. Russian troops were able to take most of Ocheretyne, northwest of Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine after an apparent rotational error involving Ukraine's elite 47th Mechanized Brigade and its 115th Mechanized Brigade. So the 47th Mechanized Brigade was due to be relieved by the 115th along the front line of the just east of Ocheretyne. But as the 47th pulled back, Russia's 30th Motor Rifle Brigade attacked, taking advantage of a gap left by the pending arrival of the 115th. The commander of the 47th, Mykola Melnik, famed for losing a leg during the summer offensive, wrote on Facebook, the drastic advancement of the Russians became possible because certain units just effed off. Okay, they just left. And I'm not sure why they did that. So it says here, hope they get restrained as assault troops, he added. Vadim Chorny, a spokesperson for the 115th Brigade, told the Financial Times that the allegations were not true. So according to this spokesperson, Vadim Chorny, he's saying that these allegations of losing ground, I'm assuming, and what happened here with this blunder was not true. The unit did not abandon its position, he said. Melnik said the only reason Russia was unable to continue its advancement was because the 47th Brigade rejoined the fight. So apparently they went back. So they left the town of Ocheretyne, and then they went back when they realized that the Russians were moving forward. The holes were clogged by those who were planning on taking a break, he said. 47th Brigade is back in business another month, and that will make it a year without rotation. So look at that. Imagine fighting for an entire year, okay, and thinking every single day could be your last, and not being rotated out for an entire year. Of course, they're probably so excited to be able to get out of there and finally take a break for once and get rotated out from another unit. Maybe that's why they left early. So an update on Ukrainian deep state website, which tracks changes on the battlefield, showed that Russian forces had captured large parts of the village. Images shared on Telegram also claim to show a Russian flag flying over a building in a war-torn village. So yeah, I did see some footage online that I wasn't able to confirm, but yeah, apparently some Russians were holding up some flags in a city that supposedly could have been Ocheretyne, and there was like an administration building or something like that, where they were putting this flag up to show that they maybe have captured the village, or at least a large part of it. So we know they've captured at least some of that village, and this just again goes to show that they're moving forward every single day. It may be slow progress at times, but they are progressively moving forward, okay? It is happening. So a couple other things that I wanted to talk about here. I have a few posts here on X that we're going to discuss. Okay, so this one's from Nexa. It says here, the operational strategic situation is complicated and tends to worsen, said the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, while reporting on the situation at the front line. So this is him right here. And I've reported this several times. I did a report just in the last month talking about Ukraine. This was before they even got the aid package from the United States. And he was stating that the situation on the front line was worsening by the day, and that they needed, ammunition. They were low on ammo. They didn't have artillery or anything like that. And it was getting worse and worse by the day. And we're still kind of seeing that, okay? Obviously, Ukraine hasn't gotten all the supplies they need yet. They're starting to get some right now. We know the U.S. is sending, ATACMS missiles and all kinds of ammunition, whatever they can send them right now. And I also did a report yesterday that the Russians are bombing their train stations in Ukraine to prevent this aid from coming to the front line on the eastern side of Ukraine. So regardless, what we are seeing here is, even though they're getting support from the West, I know it's just barely starting to come in. It's going to take some time, but Ukraine is still losing ground, okay? And it's consistently happening. Even though it's taking some time, they're losing more and more ground, and it's getting more dangerous for them. And the reason why I say that is because of all these reports that I've put out talking about all these Western countries that will come to Ukraine's aid if they really start to fall apart here. We know that things are not going well near the city of Avdiivka. And that region right there where Ocheretyne is, where I showed you, it's really starting to fall apart in that area for the Ukrainians. So finally, I want to show you this. This is from Anton Gurashenko. Russia's managed to break through and gain a foothold in a certain part of Ocheretyne, Donetsk region, Kortisia, Operational Strategic Group representative. According to him, the AFU are taking measures to kick the enemy out from Ocheretyne. Heavy fighting is underway. The Russian Federation has deployed 4 brigades there. Ukrainian troops have also pulled up additional means and forces from the reserve. So we know that there's like 1 or 2 brigades from the Ukrainians, right? There's the 47th and the 115th. And then with the Russians, they've got 4 brigades according to this, okay? That's, probably upwards of 5 to 10,000 troops in that region alone. And the fighting is going to intensify, and I think Russia is focusing on this region because they know that it's weak. Okay, we've been seeing lots of fighting happening here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. It's going to have subtitles, but it'll be in Russian or their language that they're speaking over there. So let's take a look.
Що вам відомо про ситуацію в Очеретиному Донецької області?
Наразі я вам скажу найсвіжішу інформацію. Так, дійсно, ворогу вдалося прорватися і закріпитися в певній частині цього населеного пункту. Наразі частина, в якій знаходиться противник, перебуває під нашим вогневим контролем. Вживаються всі заходи, щоб вибити ворога звідти, тривають бої важкі, ситуація контролюється підрозділами сил оборони. Слід також наголосити, що для того, щоб розвинути цей тактичний успіх в районі Очеретиного, для подальшого прориву нашої оборони, ворог задіяв на цьому напрямку 4 бригади Збройних сил Російської Федерації. З нашого ж боку вживаються всі заходи для стабілізації обстановки на Авдіївському напрямку та повернення контролю над Очеретиним. З цією метою також введено додаткові сили та засоби з резерву.
Що вам відомо про ситуацію в Очеретиному Донецької?
All right, so I'm not sure if you were able to see everything that they were talking about, but they're showing that in this city of Ocheretyne that they're struggling very, very hard, okay? And there's 4 brigades there from the Russians that are fighting in this area, and the situation is very tense, just like what we're hearing from Oleksandr Syrsky, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. And, they're struggling to stabilize this region, and we've been consistently seeing that again, okay? Anywhere near Avdiivka is definitely a weak point for the Ukrainians right now, and they're struggling to either regain ground or maintain the ground that they're holding currently. So that's why I wanted to show you this story here, because I've mentioned many times that there could come a point where there's a certain part of the front line of Ukraine and Russia where it just completely collapses on the Ukrainian side, especially when they were really low on weapons and supplies, that it could collapse and the Russians could just break through. We're starting to see that right now, okay? We're seeing a little bit more of that each time, and there's more and more villages that the Russians continuously keep capturing. So what's going to happen when they keep moving, westward and take more land and more land and more land? We'll see how this 61 billion aid package helps out Ukraine. I'm sure it will to an extent, but yeah, we're also expecting a major push from the Russian military here pretty soon. They're going to be launching some sort of offensive. At least we keep hearing that. We'll see if they actually do that. But regardless, the situation on the front line for Ukraine is very tense right now, and they're struggling to hold ground. Okay, so that's going to be it for this update, though. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.